Hey guys, my name is Gabby, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be filming a video called If You Like This Book, You Will Also Like This Book, book recommendations kind of video. I filmed a recommendations video like this, I want to say a little over a year ago now on my channel, but I'll put the link in the description for the original video that I made for this. I know we're all looking for book recommendations of things that we've previously enjoyed, so I thought this is a perfect way to do that. Also, at the end, I'm going to mention a few that I think if you like one book, you might like the other book, but for me, I personally didn't because I thought that they were too similar. And yeah, so I have 10 rounds to get through and then a few more bonuses at the end, so let's just jump right into it. First one is going to be if you liked There's Someone Inside Your House by Stephanie Perkins, then I think you will also like Final Girls by Riley Sager, mainly because these are both like slasher stories and they both involve some kind of killer. You don't really know why, and There's Someone Inside Your House is like the young adult version of this, but I will say out of these two books I did prefer Final Girls because There's Someone Inside of Your House has a lot of romance and it's very like young adult and kind of like cheesy, and the scenes with the killer are really good, but they're not the majority of the book. Like, this book feels more romance than it does serial killer like slasher type of book, but this book definitely feels more slasher to me. Next up is if you liked Autobiography by Christina Lauren, then I think you will also like The Heart's Invisible Furies by John Boyne. The reason for that is because both of these books have really strong LGBT themes within a religion. This one is a young adult that deals heavily with an LGBT character in the Mormon religion and how that affects his life. This is like a modern day book, and then this one deals with a gay man in Ireland in the 1950s in the Catholic Church. And so both of these really talk about the issues with LGBT rights within the church and within their communities. And it's just, yeah, they're both very powerful stories. And this one reads more like a literary fiction and this one is just like young adult fiction, but they're both really good. Next up is if you liked Him by Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy, then I think you would also like Heels Over Head by Elsie Springer, because these are both male-male LGBT love stories that involve sports, and it's awesome. And so this one involves hockey, and in this book, Brandon and Jeremy are divers for the Olympics. And in both of these books, one of the characters thinks that they're straight and then they're kind of like slowly falling for the other one that's openly gay. And both of these books just have a lot of similarities and I love them both so dearly. Next up is if you like You by Caroline Kepnes, then I think you would also like Bad Mommy by Taryn Fisher. And the main reason for this is because Joe Goldberg's voice and narrations, like his creepy stalkery narrations in this, are very similar to Fig's narrations in Bad Mommy. Like, both of these main characters are very creepy and stalker-like, but they also provide a healthy dose of some dark comedy, and that's like kind of my favorite narrator to read about because they're just so entertaining. And Joe Goldberg is a stalker in New York City. He stalks this girl named Beck, and then in this book, Fig thinks that this little girl that she sees is her daughter, and so she becomes obsessed with the couple that's the parents, and she moves in next door to them, and she just starts to like manipulate their lives and like force herself into their lives without them even knowing about it. I think if you liked one, you'll definitely like the other. Next up is if you liked The Fault in Our Stars by John Green, I think you would also like Full Tilt by Emma Scott, mostly because these are two romance stories that involve some kind of looming death. Really sad and really beautiful. In this book, it's cancer, and then in Full Tilt, it's the main character Jonah has this heart condition and he's not expected to live very long. And so both of these books are really gorgeously told love stories. This one's young adult, Full Tilt is new adult. Next up is if you liked Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino, I think you would also like Atheists Who Kneel and Pray by Taryn Fisher. These are two really beautiful new adult romances, and the conflict that the couples go through about like halfway through the book, you know, and there's always like the conflict and then the resolution. The conflict is like very similar, I feel like. The writing I felt like was a little bit similar. I mean, there are a few differences within these love stories, obviously. If you did enjoy one, I definitely think you would enjoy the other. This one follows Grace, who's a musician. She plays the cello, and then it follows Matt, who's a photographer, and then this one follows David, who's a musician, and Yara, who's a bartender. So there's definitely some like music similarities too within these characters. Next up is if you liked After I Do by Taylor Jenkins Reid, then I think you will also like All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. This is Colleen Hoover's new book that's coming out in July, and I think if you like one of these books, you're definitely gonna like the other, because these both deal with married couples just trying to find their way back to happiness after being married for several years, and they're just in this rut and they're not very happy with each other anymore. This book, they decide to take a year break from each other. Like, they're not gonna get divorced, but they're just gonna take a year apart and see what their lives would be like without each other, and it's really heartbreaking and really beautiful. And then in this book, I can't give away too much of the plot because it hasn't come out yet, but also just deals with a married couple who's very unhappy and is on the brink of divorce. Next is if you liked Eliza and Her Monsters by Francesca Zappia, then I think you will also like The Butterfly Project by Emma Scott, because both of these main characters are graphic novel artists. So in Eliza and Her Monsters, the main character Eliza, she writes like graphic novel comics online and she draws them herself. And then the main character in this book, Zelda, also does that, has her own like graphic novel. You get pictures of their graphic novels in both of these books, which I think is so cool and so exciting. The main difference between these two books is that Eliza and Her Monsters is like a young adult book and Eliza suffers from anxiety, whereas this book is a new adult romance that takes place in New York. This is one of my favorite books of all time, and Eliza and Her Monsters is a book that I thought was really good, but I don't consider it one of my like favorites ever. But these two were somewhat similar, and so I think if you liked one, you might want to give the other a shot. This one is kind of a stretch, like a little bit, but you know, I figured I would include this anyway. So if you liked A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, then I think you would also like The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And I know some of you who've probably read both of these books are like, what the fuck, like they have nothing in common, but like, hear me out. Both of these books have main characters that you get to see their entire lives. Like for this book, it's Jude, you get to experience his entire life with him, and for this book, it's Evelyn Hugo, and you get to experience her entire life with her. Both of these books span decades, obviously, because we're getting to see the main characters' entire lives. These books also both deal with some similar themes, which I can't spoil. Don't get me wrong, I'm fully aware that A Little Life is incredibly sad and a lot more depressing and very dark in comparison to this book. I mean, this book definitely has its moments of sadness, but this is a lot more of a happier story. But I just do think that these books do have some similarities, so if you like one, maybe give the other one a shot. Last official round that I have is if you liked Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson, I think you will also like Love, Life, and the List by Casey West. Both of these books are young adult summer contemporary happy feel books. They both involve some kind of list for the character to develop. So in this book, we follow this girl named Emily, and her friend Sloane leaves for the summer, and she leaves her behind this list of things that she has to do for the summer for her to like come out of her shell and like live her life more. And then in Love, Life, and the List, it's kind of similar, but the main character Abby wants to be an artist really bad, but somebody tells her that she doesn't have enough heart to be an artist and she doesn't have enough life experience, and so she creates this list of things that she needs life experiences of in order to like have enough experience to become a better artist. And yeah, it's very similar to this one. And honestly, I feel like I might prefer Love, Life, and the List more than Since You've Been Gone, but that's just because it's been a while since I've read Since You've Been Gone, so I don't remember if it's like as great. Another one that I wanted to mention, but I can't explain why they're similar without spoiling you, is that if you liked The Goal by Elle Kennedy, I think you would also like The Gravity of Us by Brittany C. Cherry. And if you've read one of them and you know what the story mainly revolves around, then I think you would know what I'm talking about. But I just don't want to spoil you because I think it is a spoiler because these descriptions about these books are so vague. But like, if you enjoyed one, I think you would definitely enjoy the other. These are both technically the last books in a series, but they can also be read as standalones. Sorry, I'll put the spoilery part in the description if you want to know what I'm talking about, like why they're similar. I just don't want to potentially spoil anyone who like wants to go into this book knowing nothing, but it's like not necessarily a spoiler. It's just a huge part of the plot that's kept hidden from the descriptions. So yeah, that'll be in the description. Another one that I wanted to say, because I found these books incredibly similar, is that if you liked Ready Player One, then you might also like Warcross, or like me, you might think they're way too fucking similar and that Warcross isn't nearly as developed as Ready Player One. You should know that these two books are incredibly similar, so if you enjoy one, you might enjoy the other, or you might just think like, what the hell, that's way too similar. Another one that's just like that is that if you liked The Wife Between Us, then you might also like The Last Miss Parish. I personally didn't really love either of these books, and I found them to be way too similar. Like, they're almost exactly the same book, they have the same plot twist, and it's just kind of strange because these two are so similar. I just thought I would mention that. These are both adult thrillers, so yeah. That was the if you like this book, you will like this book tag. This video is always really fun to make because I do like finding similarities within storylines. That I introduce you to any potential new books that you might be interested in. That would be super cool to know. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I will see you guys next time.